Hello there, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. Welcome to episode 100. That's pretty wild. If I have reordered the episode numbers by now, then you already know that. And if I haven't, then this is the 49th Ramble On episode after 51 full episodes. And that's also 100. Wow. Thank you for listening. Let's get to current events. I was getting into the Philippines for my wedding. Okay, all the airport stuff is done. Let's get on to what happened in the Philippines. I think I mentioned in the beginning, it was amazing seeing my friends. We watched some episodes of the Detroiters, had some beers, great time, good fun. I had a huge list of Filipino food I wanted to eat. Turns out most of them are not at all in Bacolod. My friend Annie, who grew up there, has never heard of most of the things on my list. So I did try a couple dishes, but not a ton that were on the list. But we got into Filipino shenanigans right away. We went to her aunt's house, who I can only remember as Auntie. I just called her Auntie the whole time I was there because that was what everyone called her. And start up the KTV, or karaoke. I don't know if they call it karaoke or KTV, actually, because my friends who are getting married, one's from China, and KTV is there, and his bride-to-be, Annie, lives in China with him, so she called it KTV. I feel like it's karaoke in the Philippines, but who cares? The KTV just means karaoke, so I'll probably say KTV. I mean karaoke when I say that. Although now I'm living in Japan, so maybe I should say karaoke. No, I shouldn't. KTV. Eleanor Rigby. That was the song I chose first. That's the song I chose to start off with, because it's kind of dun, 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 kind of an urgent tune. It has a quick melody, and I was like, this will be, like, at least fun. Like, it'll be English. I know most of the words to this. I did actually sing it in a Chinese KTV, like, a couple years ago, so I know I can technically sing it. But then the song started, and I was like, oh, wait, this is an incredibly depressing song. It's all about, like, death and lonely people just alone fixing their socks, and poor Eleanor Rigby. But it's a very fun song, and I like the song a lot. So I sang through, and I got to the end, and Annie was like, wow, so that's the song you started out with, the most depressing song in the world. And we all had a laugh, and then they I guess I was the novelty, maybe, because Sean had been there and he was kind of shy about singing. And at this point, I'm not shy about many things. Kind of just, I'm private. Like, most of my hobbies, writing or reading or drawing, running even, are like usually solo stuff, video games. But I know social interaction is healthy, and so when I'm in a social setting, I try to throw myself into it so that I can get as much social nutrients as I can. Since I am in the social setting anyway, I might as well go for it. So if there is a dance contest, which comes up later, I will be in it. And if there is KTV and people are asking, do you want to sing again? I'm just like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I kept on singing, and I sang a lot, and I won't go over everything, but I definitely also sang Clint Eastwood, which is the first karaoke song I ever sang in my life back in college. I went with some friends to a karaoke bar, and I was very nervous, and I sang, and it came off okay, but I sang like I was totally out of breath. Singing was very difficult, and I pulled it off a little better this time. And, no one's a native speaker of English in the Philippines, so I kind of lucked out there. But they all been studying it since they were, like, kids. I had a lot of fun singing Clint Eastwood, so I was like, what else is really fun? And when I went on road trips in the U.S. to keep myself awake, I would put on, there's, like, a couple songs that are just, like, loud and fun, and I like to sing along with them in the car. And one of them is I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan, the Disney movie, and the old animated one. And that sounded like a lot of fun. And I felt safe. Like, everyone in the we're all just having fun. That's the best thing about KTV or karaoke in the Philippines. There's zero burden to be a good singer. For some reason, that's the only country I know about, but singing publicly with other people, I mean, you're usually doing it in a house, but even if you don't know anyone else there, there's never any embarrassment about how bad of a singer anybody is. And there's people singing like in markets, advertising their wares, and they'll have a little speaker and a KTV microphone, and they'll sing karaoke just in front of strangers, and they're not good at singing, and they don't care at all. It's really nice. It's a nice, comfortable environment to be in. If you're uncomfortable at all singing publicly, you just don't have to worry about that in the Philippines, because it's such a salient part of their culture. It's like the biggest part of their culture. There's karaoke everywhere. It's wild. So I wasn't too worried about sounding dumb, and I just belted out "Man Out of You." I'll make a man out of you. I'm never gonna make the cut. Say goodbye to those who knew me. Boy, was I a fool in school for cutting gem. So much fun. And no one jeered or laughed. They were just like, great, next song. And my friend's Chinese mom sang a song amazing. She sang actually well. She sang "My Heart Will Go On" very well. That was amazing. We had so much fun karaoke, and I had lived in Cebu for like a month before in the Philippines 10 years ago, and Bacolod didn't feel too dissimilar, but I had never gone to a KTV thing in Cebu, which is crazy, but I was traveling with other people at the time who did not want to sing. But if you're in the Philippines, go sing karaoke or KTV. Just go do it. Like, it's crazy not to. That's like going to Alaska and being like, no, I'm not interested in seeing the Northern Lights, thank you. Like, it's such a salient fact of the culture in that location. If you're in the Philippines, go sing some KTV. And I did, and I sang a bunch of stuff, and my friend sang a bunch of different songs, and we were all terrible, and there was great food that Auntie and her friend was making, and we just ate great food and sang songs and grabbed like a few beers at a time around the corner from some shop, and there was buy one, get one free French fries, so we brought those back for snacks also and shared them with everybody. It was a ton of fun. It was just a great regular karaoke party, but I could already tell, I was like, I don't even think this is like out of the ordinary. I think they just do this every Tuesday or whatever. And then we went back literally like 3 days later, and I was like, yep, nope, they just do this every other day. This is how life is in the Philippines. So if you like to sing and you want a cheap place to live that you can like sing with friends every day, basically just have a casual party any day of the week, the Philippines is where you want to go. There's going to be KTV, there's going to be some food, everyone will be laughing and clapping and having a great time. That is like a low stakes culture. Nobody's really worried about their job. Like, they go to their job to make enough money to go to the next party and buy fish to share with everybody and fry whatever, hamburgers, I don't know, whatever. The food is very cheap, even with considering like the low cost of living in the Philippines. So it seems like a pretty comfortable place for most people to live in, although there were a ton of homeless kids begging there for money. So I don't, their civil services certainly don't seem so great. It doesn't seem like they take care of the less fortunate in the society, which my Filipino friend was explaining to me. That's what her problem was with the Philippines going back there. It was really difficult for her to see a lot of the poverty compared to the rest of Southeast Asia and especially China, where she was living, where things were so advanced. So we all sang all sorts of stuff. I got to sing Shiny for the first time, and I am like addicted to singing that song now. I sang it in my hotel room after that party. That's like the first song I sang when I went back a few days later to that same house for the next KTV party. Like the treasure from a sunken pirate wreck. Scrub the deck and make it look shiny. What a fun song. I think I did that same thing in a previous episode, and I'm sorry that you had to hear me do that twice. So, karaoke parties. Pretty fun. I had a great time. If you just want an easy life and you don't know what to do for a while, I mean, the Philippines, the kids on the street will ask you for money, but there's so many all-you-can-eat buffets there that are not expensive, that are $5 a person. There are, you know what, there's not as much housing in Bacolod, but you can still find rooms for, oh wait, that was for the week. Actually, I don't know, because even for the week I found something for $350 equivalent per month. So maybe there is 15, no, I guess that's like $450. I'd have to check. Let's check. Nope, that was because I was renting by the month. Okay, if you're renting by the, I was renting by the week in Bacolod rather than the month because I was staying there so briefly and my friends had already gotten me a room for a week and a half or something. So it's as expensive as anywhere else if you rent by the day or the week. But if you rent by the month, you can still get $300 for a comfy private apartment across the Philippines. So yeah, live there. The food is $1 a plate for the more expensive foods. It's like 50 cents a plate for the cheaper foods, for rice dishes. You make 2 friends. Everybody's family is connected there. So you'll be invited to 50 KTV parties a week. And you can have some fun. I say go for it. If you just want to relax, the Philippines, pretty easy place to do that. It's a laid back place to live for a while for sure. And especially if you're nervous about singing, it might be worth just to go there to sing karaoke for your first time because zero judgment ever. Quite nice. I didn't think it would be that open, but it really is just, they all just like singing. That's just a people who like singing. And it doesn't matter if you're good, as long as you're enjoying singing, then that's good. What else happened in the Philippines? My sandal broke, and there was a street lamp in front of 7-Eleven, and so I sat on the street lamp and started to fix my sandal, and like 10 of the homeless boys came over, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And they spoke like flawless English. And, well, one of them did anyway, the one who was main speaking. The other kid, yeah, there were a couple of them who spoke good English. And so I just explained that I make my own sandals and they're DIY. And the kid was like, "Well, how do you do it?" And he seemed really interested in it. And so I told him like how to make it out of paracord and a couple of soda can tabs, and it'll last for a month or longer. I mean, yeah, that last one lasts for like 2 months. Doubling up the soda can tabs. Anyway, they were really interested in this crazy foreigner fixing his sandals in front of 7-Eleven where they were all hanging out. And they asked where I was from. I showed them some pictures of recent travels, and then they watched me repair my sandal. And it was cool because they all were like, "That's pretty cool," because it's very clear. Like I said, it's not a wealthy country, and so they do make a lot of their own stuff. And the main one that was asking was clearly interested in like doing it himself because he didn't have to spend money on a new pair of sandals. All you needed was string of basically any kind, and then a couple soda can tabs, and you can make your own sandal. So it was cool explaining that because those are the most comfortable shoes that I've ever worn. That's why I wear those sandals in most countries and make them myself. And so it was really fun explaining that to this kid who was interested and talking to the gang. And then, "All right, bye guys." And I went off to look for some shoes and pants for the wedding, which I found. My nice black pants ended up costing $2? About $2. And then my shoes, I found that same night, and they were only, $250. Yeah, about $250. So I got my wedding attire because my barong, the traditional Filipino, like fancy dress shirt, was already going to be supplied to me so that I looked the same as the other people. We all had matching barongs, except for the groom, of course, who was a little fancier. But I was really happy to find, I just went to outdoor markets because I went to the mall and I went to some stores and I was like, this isn't correct. In a Southeast Asian country, I'm going to find local markets where everything costs nothing and are just as nice. And I found a bunch of secondhand markets like that, got some perfect shoes, And the guy, he saw me, but I was clearly not. I don't get price gouged as much even up front. I think it's just I'm comfortable in these secondhand markets in countries, even though I'm so obviously not local at all. And with my big goofy hat, I look even more touristy than ever. But they just don't even start that high anymore with me. I think it's because I look comfortable at these markets. And so the guy was like, 200, which is like $2 and no, it's like $3 in the Philippines, 200 pesos. And I was like, And he was like, 140. And I was like, okay. And I gave him 140, which is like 250 or whatever, 220. 240, yeah, something like that, $2.40, something like that. But I was just like, I'll pay. And I had never been in there, but I saw other people buy a pair of shoes, and I was like, okay, she paid 200, and those are kind of nice. These are just basic black sneakers. And so, yeah, the guy offered me 200, he was like, and all I have to do is go, nah. And he's like, 150 it was, 150. And I was like, sure. So I got these great shoes for 250, and then I went to another local market. I found a Chinatown market, actually, very close to our hotel, that my Chinese friend didn't know was there, and they had tons of pants, and I was just like, if I keep walking around, one of these people are going to have the exact wedding pants I need. And I found perfect pants. They fit me very, very well, and they were among the cheapest ones. All the pants for some reason were 300, and then this lady's pants were all 150 or something. And they're all secondhand, like everything everywhere. But I just found hers, and among hers I was like, maybe, these are good. And then she gave them to me. She also did the same thing. She was like, those are 150, but 115 for lowest price is what I can give you. And I was like, okay, 115. Which means you should barter and get like 90 instead of 100. But come on, less than $2. I just couldn't. I even gave her extra coins. I was just like, here, I'm not going to take these coins. She was like, oh no, it's 115. And I was like, no, I know. I just don't want these extra coins. It's fine. So for $4, whatever, I got my cool wedding shoes and pants. And I'm very happy about those, and I might be wearing those to my next wedding as well, because they still fit great. Okay, so I was very happy to get my wedding stuff, and then my friend gave me my barong, and like I said, the barong is the traditional Filipino dress shirt, which is kind of nice. I don't have to go look for a suit jacket also, which I definitely would have gone back to that Chinatown market for. It's just, it's kind of interesting. I don't know how to describe it. It has sort of poofy sleeves, and it has a sort of mosaic-y type design patterned on the front of the shirt. But other than that, it's just a very light, sometimes see-through almost. Usually see-through. You need a white undershirt to wear, or everyone can just see your chest through the extremely thin fabric. And then poofy sleeves. And I had to get an undershirt for that, and I found a great undershirt from some mom's birthday party, probably back in the States or something, in a secondhand market, and it was like 50 pesos, so 85 cents. And it said, "It's great to be Chucky's mom," in faded pink on the shirt, but otherwise it looked great. And I was really happy to be wearing that faded secondhand Chucky's mom party shirt underneath my super fancy embroidered barong. That was very nice. My people who invite me to weddings and I'm part of the wedding don't generally tell me anything until it's time to do it. And these people in general seem more, I don't know, it seems they have jobs that they go to every day. They seem like more concerned about schedules than I do, I guess. But I've been to 2 weddings in the last couple of years, and people are like, "Hey, you're the best man. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do anything." And they'll show up and they'll be like, "Okay, so you're going to give your speech first." And I'm like, "Oh, speech." And they're like, "I didn't tell you have to do a speech." It's like, "Oh, yeah, okay." Which, sure, makes sense. that the best man will give a speech, but just let me know anything about the schedule. And this one was the same thing, where Sean was like, it's so good to have you here. And it was really funny because I was actually the only person aside from his mom from his side, really, that was flying to the Philippines to go to his wedding. So he seemed very happy that I was there. But the day before, 2 days before, I think the actual wedding, Annie, the bride-to-be, told me, okay, so you're going to give a speech. And then when I got to the actual wedding, I ended up having to give 2 speeches. And so I only had a couple days to come up with one speech, but I was like, this is fine. I've done this a few times. I can come up with a nice speech. And I did. And then the MC of the thing was like, okay, and we're going to have a second speech from Kai. And I had to make one up in 10 seconds. And I thought it went fine. I participated in the dance contest anyway. What do you want from me? The wedding was pretty funny. We can move on to that, I think. Sean is from China. That's not a Christian religious country. It's polytheistically religious, but they don't think of themselves as religious at all because they don't have a monotheistic God. And that's what they think of as religious in China. Even if they pray to gods in China, it's just it's much more casual than most religion in other countries. So they just don't have religion. The Philippines, in contrast, is extremely monotheistically Christian and religious. And they're big on church and praying to the one God and saying grace before eating and all that kind of stuff. So it was really funny being at the wedding. Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about at the wedding. You know what? I'm just going to try and start from the beginning of the wedding, and then I'll try and go through it as quickly as I can. So I took an Uber or Grab, the local Uber in the Philippines called Grab, down to the wedding venue. And it looked like a broken down old street, but behind it was this really nice wedding venue. And I was like, oh, I see, okay. And there was big lawns and a lake and a pond and a bridge and all this kind of stuff. And I had to show up at 10. I had to show up at 10 a.m. and the wedding started at 5 p.m. That was the schedule. And I was not excited to do that, but neither was the groom. And I was like, you have to support him as the best man. And so I showed up because we were going to be taking pictures all day. And if I was there at 10, then the schedule would be fine. So I showed up at 10, and then nothing was really ready. So we just kind of hung out. The girls started getting on their dresses, and the guys started putting on their barongs. And I was already wearing all my stuff. That was the earliest I was ready for anything in years. And I just practiced Duolingo Japanese on the bed, and all the girls would rush through to the dressing room and put on their dress and then rush out and be like, also pretty. There's a bunch of pretty girls here. This is nice. And that's what I did for 2 hours. Played on Duolingo and helped the girls hang up their dresses or whatever until it was time for our photo shoot. And you know what? I gotta say, the people at this wedding venue were very professional, and the pictures themselves that they took in the videos turned out very nice. They looked great. And it was a pain in the butt to do all these, shoots where they're like, okay, turn around. Okay, hold up the thermos, hold up the gift bags, whatever. And then put on the glasses and take them off and walk there, walk back. But, it's gonna look okay. I was like, this is fine. These are memories for him. And it was fun doing it because we all felt stupid doing these poses. And then the photos that came out at the end of the night were very nice. And the videos that came out were very nice. So it was great that we did it. And Sean and Annie have these great memories. Oh, speaking of which, I was going to do wedding interviews when I got there, but that would have been a disaster because unlike a lot of weddings, this is very heavily emceed. So even if I had brought my microphone that plugs into my phone, it would have been almost impossible to get any sound clips out of anybody there, but that was okay because that's what the photographers and wedding coordinators were doing. They were also getting audio clips from everybody, but I was able to test my mic setup with Sean in like a couple days before in my hotel room. So I have that set up now, and hopefully I'll be able to get some interviews from local people wherever I'm traveling out to you guys in the following episodes. The next person I hang out with, so probably here in Japan, except Japan's so private, I don't know how that'll happen really, and I'm in such a tiny little nowheresville, but whatever, I'll figure it out. I should have done it with the lady on the train. Yep. Oh well. I'll try and figure out an interview for you people and put it up here so that you can, just listen to people from different countries talk about their lives, because it's really interesting. It's every time I talk to a local, that's part of why I love traveling so much. I love talking to people about their lives because it's just different, and I get to learn something every single time. It's fascinating. Like the 88 temples are just part of their life because they live in a region of the world. The island I'm on now, Matsuyama, the island is Shikoku, and the city's Matsuyama where I am, that there are 88 temples. Like, everybody knows that in Japan. If you're on the island of Shikoku, there's an 88 temple pilgrimage, and that's just part of their life. So it's really interesting how that shapes how they see their world. So I want to get some interviews going on because it's different wherever I go. I did get a short 15-minute interview about Sean and Annie together. Sean was telling stories about them, but I screwed up the audio completely. And I realized I basically was just out of sync, and I didn't want it to do it like not perfectly in sync. And rather than fussing with it, it was very loose anyway and didn't sound great because I didn't worry about microphone placement. I also learned the microphone has to be a little more angled correctly. So, but the next interview, it should sound pretty good. And maybe you'll hear that sometime. Any interviews, I don't know, I'll probably throw them on these further Saturday episodes. I don't know, I'm figuring it out. Back to the wedding. So the wedding, we took our photos and then everything was over after an hour. So maybe by 12:30 p.m. it was done and we're just waiting for the wedding to get going. But I just followed Sean around because he was starting to get nervous about his wedding, you know. Oh, you know what's great? Did I tell you they both love Shameless? And so the reason they're having the wedding is because they were watching Shameless and... Oh, I did. I think I mentioned this in the last one. 2 characters were getting married and Sean turned to Annie and said, "Hey, let's have a wedding." Because they had a civil union, but they didn't have a wedding ceremony yet. And that's why they decided to have the wedding. I think that's great. That's such a good reason. That's my favorite reason to have a wedding. But we're all waiting for the wedding to get started. And I don't have anything to do, so I just go back to playing Duolingo. But then I see Sean walking in and out of the room. And I was like, "Hey, best man, step up and just be there for whatever he needs." And there were a bunch of little things like where he had to go or where their kid was or where Annie was, what he was supposed to do, basically. The coordinators would tell him, "Okay, be in this room, just wait here." And he would not even hear them because he was so nervous. And it was clear, it was just nice for him to look over at me and I'd be smiling, laughing about him running around, and that would make him smile and laugh, which made him a little more comfortable. Or when the wedding coordinator took us out to explain all of our parts, he had no idea what she was saying, and that's fine because she was coordinating many people at the same time, but these are where the groom, was going to be standing, when he was supposed to turn, what he was supposed to do, all the traditions with the Filipino parents. And she was just "Okay, so you're going to walk here, you pause here for 1 step, you walk down here for 5 steps, you turn to the right, turn back up so you can watch them come in, go over to the parents, make sure to kiss their hands, turn around, seat them." And I could see his mind just everything's going crazy in his brain about how this was going to work. So I was focusing like it was a test in my university, and I memorized everything, and I just walked him through it again after the coordinator was like, "You got it? Okay, I'll be right back." And then she left. And I explained it to him and his mom, like what they were supposed to do in their position. So I was like, good, I have something to do. Like I'm providing value here. I feel good and helpful. And it was great because he knew where to turn. He knew when to get the rings. When they put their vows on the side, I grabbed the vows. And yeah, there was just all these little things that he couldn't focus on and Annie couldn't think about because they were about to get married in a few hours. I could just sort of dash around and pay attention where they weren't able to pay attention and help them out with things they might have missed because they were about to get married. Especially when Sean was about to see Annie the first time, the coordinator was like directing him on how he was supposed to look when she walked over. And it was so clear that he had no idea what was happening and he wasn't hearing the coordinator at all. And so she gave him like a 5-minute speech to like all these directions. And I was like, he's not going to remember any of that. He's about to be married. So I just walked up to him and was like, hey, remember, you better look surprised and happy. And he was like, yeah. And I made it a joke and he was comfortable. And then when he saw her, it was great. He spread out his hands and was like, wow. It was so great when he saw her the first time. They were so happy. It was so wonderful. And they took great pictures. And then we walked over the bridge and then it was 3:30. But it started. The wedding just started. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I told Sean where to stand, the positions that the coordinator had told us where to stand. And I explained things to his mom because Sean was going to be separate. He was usually translating for his mom, but, he was the groom. So he was going to be in a different part. His mom would be sitting. So I had to translate in Mandarin for his mom, like what she was supposed to be doing and where she should be standing. And the only problem was me and his mom were seated together in the one spot that was not covered by trees. And I was like, oh no. And the sun was so bright at 3:30, just like laser beam shooting into my eyes. And I noticed some of the guests had like dainty, nice little umbrellas. Some of the girls had them. And I was like, excuse me, coordinator lady. The wedding is already going on. And I tried to stick with it for like 5 minutes. And then I was like, nope, I'm going to go blind and get sunburned. And I had to ask the lady, like, can I get an umbrella? And I did, and I got to hold the umbrella over my and Sean's mom's eyes so we weren't dying in the sun for an hour and a half, because Sean let me know later, this ceremony turned out a wee bit longer than he was expecting. And he, not being a Christian, basically just had to listen to a pastor talk about how God was the source of everything, and then tacitly agree every 5 minutes. Is that correct, Sean? Yes. And that went on for 90 minutes. And then we got to the vows, and the vows were so good. They were very nice vows. They were perfect, wonderful, funny, heartfelt vows from Sean and Annie to each other. And I was so happy for the two of them to have found each other and to be with each other, and for me to be witnessing this ceremony that they decided to hold because they saw it in a debauched TV show. It was great. And it was really funny. Sean just trying to like follow the pastor. Oh, because the pastor didn't speak fluent English. It was his second language, and he was pretty good at it for sure. But he made mistakes fairly often. Like Sean's English was better than this pastor's English, and Sean was having trouble following the pastor's words. So sometimes he had to repeat words from the Bible after the pastor, and he was just repeating the wrong one. And I couldn't like whisper in his ear because I'm off to the side a bit. So it was just so funny. Every now and then Sean would like get a break, like a couple seconds where he could shoot over a glance at me just to be like, this is crazy. And I was like, you're doing great. Just keep saying yes to all of the God stuff and the incorrect words. Just say whatever he's saying. And it was just really funny, these little, the eye communication you have with your friends sometimes. But he made it through the wedding. The vows went off. The preacher finally stopped talking. It was closer to 5 p.m. now. And yeah, everything, we had a little extra ceremony at the end where we shook streamers and threw flower petals on the new couple, and it was and they had this thing where like they have to kiss as long as you hoot and holler. And I'm not much for hooting and hollering myself, but at a social situation, I just throw myself into it. And I especially felt like as the best man, I was there to make the ceremony as easy for the couple as possible and as fun a party as it could be. And so I hooted and hollered and made sure the energy was high, and then everybody else shouted louder because they couldn't let one guy, it's how hooting and hollering works. And it was great. The video turned out great later on, and all the pictures we got, everyone was very high energy. So anytime there was something where, okay, let's do energy, and then I'd look around and everyone in the group was like kind of embarrassed to be going crazy, I would just be the big, dumb, loud person first, so no one else had to be embarrassed. They were like, oh, well, everyone's going to be noticing him being dumb and loud, so we can hoot and holler and it'll look normal next to his crazy hooting and hollering. And I was like, okay, I've made it through 7 hours. Soon I'll give my speech, and once that speech is over, there will be beer. And the beer was actually already out. And Sean was like, hey man, you can start drinking. And I was like, thank you. I'm going to talk first, and then I'm going to drink. And I did exactly that. I gave my speech first, I believe, and they liked it, and it was short, which is how all wedding speeches should be, in my opinion. Just like give them a couple of minutes of heartfelt niceness, a couple jokes, and then get out of there, because there's going to be a lot of speeches, and people, they don't want to listen to speeches. They want to eat the good food. They want to move this along. We've been here a long time, folks. So I gave my short little speech. It seems like people liked it. And I sat next to Sean's mom again because he's up with Annie at their seat of honor for the new couple, and I could translate some of what was happening. My Chinese, by the way, my Mandarin, terrible after so many years away. It gets better when I go back to the country, but this was just after a year and whatever of not speaking it. I have to translate a lot because his mom only speaks Mandarin, zero English. Well, actually, she used to be an English teacher. Her English is not bad, but she insists on only speaking Mandarin most of the time. She spoke a little English, but it was mostly me translating very poor Mandarin, which she was fine with and understood and was very kind about. So I was translating a lot of stuff for her at the wedding as well as I could. And as soon as I did my speech, I went and got my first little beer, and me and his mom, who also likes to drink, shared a beer, and then the games started, and there were so many games. So rather than the music just starts, this MC just he just took over the whole reception for the entire time. I guess it was 3 hours, and he was just talking and doing different jokes for audience members to do, guess what song's playing in the first 10 seconds and you get a prize, and so many. And it's kind of nice because then nobody has the onus of responsibility to keep the energy up, because the MC is emceeing the entire reception. You don't have to do anything. But it was a little, I don't know, to me it seemed less fun overall, but it was nice that no one has to think about anything that they're doing because the entire thing's taken care of. And the last thing that happened was the dance contest. I will mention that because I won it, so that's why I want to talk about it. There are 3 rounds. You dance 3 times to 3 different songs, and each time the wedding couple, chooses who won each dance, and then the person who wins all 3 wins I don't know, whatever. That's basically how it went. And I danced, and I guess I won because the first time no one was expecting. They were all just doing little shoulder bump dances kind of thing. One guy did the budots, and I took a couple steps forward and then just made up some dance moves with my feet that I pretended were real, and they looked cool on the video. So I got chosen the first round. The second round I won, but I was really flailing about at that point. But then the third round was a single pose. It had to be your coolest pose, dance pose. And I was like, oh, and I thought of the pose I had won the Beijing dance contest with. And that was still don't know what it's called. You jump up, land on your hands, and slowly do like a slow reverse push up down and roll your body down. So you're like in a push-up-y, almost like a yoga pose, like pushing yourself up at the end. But you like slide your body onto the ground after jumping up in the air and slowly lowering yourself down using your arms. There's got to be a word for it. I don't know what it is. If you know what that word is and you're somehow still listening to this, send me that information. I'm very curious what that move is called. So I did that move. It got a lot of applause. People by this point in the ceremony and reception were like, okay, this is their fun foreigner friend who's going to keep things fun for the rest of us. So I was getting applause whenever I did something fun and high energy. And this pose was totally ridiculous and very fun. And I won. So then there's me and the girl who won, because it's all the bridesmaids and all the groomsmen. And those were the teams. So one bridesmaid won, and we had to copy what the actual couple did. And Sean started right out with kissing on the forehead. And I kissed the maid of honor on the forehead. And then I snuck in a couple other kisses during other times when she like looked away embarrassed, and I kissed her cheek, and the crowd went wild for that. They loved it. And Sean and Annie were like rolling around laughing. And I thanked her later for being a good sport, just trying to be fun. And she was also very nice about it. And then it was like 3 hours later, because all these things had gone on, and they showed us pictures and a video of the wedding that they had been taking, and the preliminary like cut together video. And the video and photos were all very impressive. The audio clips they put together, it was pretty amazing that they had all done that basically that afternoon in a couple hours while the wedding was going on. And I was very impressed. I talked to the cameramen and the sound guys, and they told me a couple audio things I hadn't heard about before. They kept saying there was a diffuser cable. I haven't looked into that enough yet. I don't know. I can't remember what they were talking about, because I was like 5 beers in already. So I'm not sure if I was talking to them about the right thing audio. I just kept being like, I have a podcast. I also like audio. And they were like, okay, buddy. So that was the Filipino wedding that I attended. That was very different from other weddings I'd been to. And it was a nice experience. And my friends, Sean and Annie, had such a good time, and they loved their video. They clearly appreciated me high energy-ing everything whenever something happened, just making sure everybody's having fun. And I felt good in that role of best man. It felt like I was really helping out and making some fun happen. Oh my gosh, there's more to talk about. I can't believe this is already going on so long. I have a bunch more to talk about after the wedding. Wait, okay, let me see if there's any more wedding stuff first. Seafood. Oh, seafood. Jeez, no. Oh my gosh, wait, was there... There's got to be other weddings. Okay, there are a couple wedding things to talk about. I had to give a second speech, I mentioned that. There were no cups at the wedding. There were cups that they served drinks in, but they had 0 extra cups. So Sean's mom can't drink a whole ton, but I wanted to share beers with her because I knew she liked to drink. We were good drinking buddies when we karaoke'd and stuff. And I got one of these apple beers, and I was like, it's kind of sweet, but you'll like it. And then I looked around and I was like, hey, there's no cups. So I got up to look for a cup, and I was like, wait, there's no cups here either, anywhere. And so I went to a waiter, and I was like, hey, can I get a cup? And he looked so confused at me. And I was like, just a cup, like to pour a beer into? And he was like, a cup? Like this cup? And he pointed to a tray of cups full of like a fruit juice. And I was like, yeah, just any cup at all, any cup or glass, so I can pour part of this beer into the other cup. And he's like, he looked so confused and upset. And he was like, yeah, I'll be right back. So maybe he was just busy, but he never came back with a cup. So I went back to Sean's mom. I was like, I'll be right back. I have to go find a cup. It's difficult to find a cup. And I went outside and I was looking at all the food and drinks tables, and there was a drinks table with sodas and beers and seltzers, but there were no cups. And the coordinator saw me looking around. They were like, "What do you need?" And I was like, "Just a cup." And she was like, "A cup?" And I was like, "Yeah, like a drinking cup or a glass." She's like, "What do you need it for?" I was like, "For pouring things into." It was so bizarre. It's like, how am I having this conversation? They're taking out trays of glasses and cups right now full of juices, and there's buckets of drinks here. There should be cups somewhere. And she was like, "Okay, I'll find a cup." But she never found a cup. She asked the waiters, who were like, "We'll bring a cup," and nobody brought a cup. It was the craziest thing. There were no cups at this wedding except for the ones that they had already filled with juice before. So I ended up just pouring my juice into an extra glass and then using that one to give to pour the beer into, to share with Sean's mom. It was good, but I thought it was crazy that there were no cups or glasses at the wedding unless they were already filled with something they were giving to you. And I talked to multiple people, and everyone looked at me like I was crazy because I wanted an extra glass. Very bizarre. I felt like that had to be shouted out. Oh, the coordinator ladies all took a picture with me as the best man because I'm obviously the foreigner-est, whitey tourist guy to take a picture with. And then after the wedding, everyone was tired. Sean was ready to start having some beers. And me, his mom, and him went to one of the suites that were part of the wedding package, and just turned on the AC, had a bunch of beers, had some snacks, and just talked about how nice the wedding was. Just hung out. His mom's really cool, and so it was just like 3 drinking buddies hanging out and talking about stuff. It was a fun time. Had some instant noodles and some other snacks and beer. And he had a really nice shower, and I asked if I could use it, but it was very janky, and I was like, never mind. The water was shooting in different directions, and the heat wasn't kicking in right away. It was just a big pain in the butt. But that was a really fun hangout, and then I was pretty sloshed at that point. His mom went to bed, we walked her to her room, and then me and Sean just walked around for 20 minutes and talked, and I was gonna grab actually, and take the grab back to the hotel because I wouldn't be staying overnight there because they had to check out like early in the morning and I don't want to do that. And so I instead was going to leave the wedding venue, but it was late by that point, so the workers had all left and locked all the gates behind them. But I was like, that's my favorite thing I'll totally climb a gate and jump. That would make this wedding complete for me. And Sean was like, we can walk and see if there's another one open. And I like looked tearfully at the gate and I was like, I'll be back, gate. He can't make me not climb you. And we kept walking, and then there was a huge gate, and it was like way higher, like 15 feet I'll say 15 feet. It was at least 15 feet, twice as high as the last gate I saw. And I was like, whoa. And Sean was like, okay, we'll definitely look for another one. I was like, nope, climbing this one. And I just climbed that gate because that seemed like way too much fun. So I climbed up and over and down the other side very quickly because that's my jam. So much fun. And I was like, hey, man, it was so great. We had already given our goodbyes and everything. So we just said, I'll see you tomorrow through the gate up at the hotel. We can just hang out. Wedding's over. Just chill out and just go to dinner and whatever. He was going to show me the grilled balut, which I will talk about in the next episode. And then I was very drunk, and I was like, you know what? You should just walk for 8 kilometers. And I walked home for 8 kilometers, 5 miles or whatever. I just walked home for 3 hours. I was very drunk. Had some music to listen to, and I was full of crap. I was just like, let's take it easy and just saunter on back. And it was a very nice walk back. I cooled off in the cool night air, and there were a couple things open. I think I got some snacks on the way home. I can barely even remember. And then I got back at like 7 a.m. or something like that. Slept until the afternoon, and then went to dinner and grilled balut with the new couple and their family. So I will talk about the grilled balut in the next episode. Thank you for sticking with this cast for 100 episodes, if you have. That's pretty wild. There are 100 more to come. There are plenty more. I still have so much more to talk about. And I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for listening. Talk to me at bitofarambler@gmail.com. Bit of a Rambler on Lemmy and Blue Sky. I'll be here. Have a great rest of your day.